Hey, thank you for joining me. It's Nick Sala here. And I've been thinking about something that I want to share with you guys. And today, I suppose, a topic that I want to talk about is about interpreting desperation. Signs maybe that you're, stressing out for no reason, to be honest. As business owners, a lot of the times we are really good at being, doomsday preppers. A sale doesn't go through and you start freaking out. A bank balance that doesn't look too good and it's the end of the world. And, all of these different things that we feel as business owners, that come into our kind of, sphere of, ideas. And a lot of the times, to be honest, I think we actually make it a lot bigger, and worst case scenarios than it actually is. I know people that, if their bank account's really bad, oh God, they're going to take my business and there's going to be all this drama and the tax fund's going to close me down. And, the truth of the matter is there's a lot of other steps that have to happen in order for that to kind of take hold, right? And a worst case scenario, if you really look at the bottom denominator, as long as we've got some type of roof over our head and, some food on the table, everything else is pretty much okay, right? But a lot of us kind of stress out a lot, right? And the reason being is I think we're taught, or it's actually kind of embedded into our DNA, to worry about certain things. And this, is developed in our developmental stages as humans. From when you're 0 to about 21 to 28 years old, somewhere there's a lot of foundational components that we learn. And let me kind of break them down. So from about 0 to 7, you usually learn things around safety and security and tribal association and how you fit into, amongst other people, right? You're trying to fit in as a little kid, right, to try to get there and kind of do your own thing, but safety and security are really, really important. So, your parents need to have some level of safety or security behind them, and whether it's money or food on table or any of these type of things. And we start to develop these habits. Now, what do they look like in business? Business is like, I want to make sure that I've got, leads coming through or cash flow, or I'm able to pay an account or pay my, wages or any of those type of things, right? Then the next sort of level of development is about 7 to 14. And usually that's kind of, understanding who you are in the world, what you like, and, how you've got a voice in the world. So it's really important to see that. How do we see that in business? Well, that's, being a part of your brand, being a part of, how you can grow, being a part of, the community itself and how you fit in within the niche of different businesses, your expertise, all of that stuff that comes from that, right? And then kind of stage 3 is around personal power and self-will, which basically talks about, your confidence level. Can you get through something, recover from that, keep on moving forward, don't allow things to kind of get you, look at, what type of, processes are in place to deal with that. If you have, some type of confrontation in business, whether it's a client or a customer or any of that type of stuff, or a team member or any of that, right? You need to kind of learn how to deal with it. And that's, where this sort of level of development comes into it. Now, any one of those steps of the way, if it's not done kind of correctly, you haven't learned it correctly, or it's been challenged in a particular way, if you've been through, traumatic events, where it comes to business, kind of usually unpacks itself in a really crazy way. And the outcome of that is that you start to stress out about stuff that really didn't really need to be stressed out about. So what I've done also is I'm kind of want to give you 3 kind of main tips that are really good to deal with this, right? So first of all is stop and pause for a second. In other words, most of the time, like instead of, heading on, like a big long email, going on a rant, getting freaked out about stuff, if you really checked in with yourself about how you're feeling, maybe you'd find out where it's actually coming from. Maybe something else stressed you out. It just happened to be that client, didn't, couldn't pay you or whatever it is. Or maybe, there's been a situation where, there's, I don't know, like maybe they're under stress that they are trying to deal with, and you just misinterpreted the email or whatever it may be. So if you notice, if you just took a pause instead of reacting like really quickly on that and kind of blowing your lid, freaking out, you probably more than likely could have just gone, you know what, all right, let's talk through this, let's figure it out, let me have a better opportunity, we'll figure out a way. There's always a way, believe you me, there's always a way. Number 2 is ask yourself, the questions. I always like saying, saying, questions around, outcome of your thinking. In other words, I'm looking at saying, well, you know what, like, if first of all, have I got an outcome that I can make of this, right? Is there an ability for me to, change the way that I react to this? And question 3 is, how can I make this better? I mean, what can I learn from the scenario instead of just going off my head and starting to stress out for nothing and, starting to feel like I'm desperate? A lot of the times it's interesting. I've seen the scenarios where, I'm trying to ring the guy and there's no response. They owe money, all the rest of it, only that I found out, a week later, they've been in a position where they just couldn't get back to me because they've been, their phone didn't have reception, and they just didn't have access to any electronics to be able to do it. So, you know what, sorted out, next day it was done. Hey, it's all cool, right? And I get it. Sometimes people, forget stuff. That's just the way it works, right? And number 3 is deal with it and move on. And here's what I mean about this. I mean, I understand, stuff around money, relationships, especially family, it gets a little bit tricky, but, you've got to ask yourself, how long are you going to be at that level of thinking? How long will it occupy your thoughts for? I mean, I know people that sit in shittiness for like 6 months. It just keeps on, that whole process of getting, angry about stuff. It's like sooner or later you just got to move on, and let's get going. I mean, if you just took a moment of pause and really understood what's preoccupying your thought and where that came from, more than likely it's going to get rid of the desperation. And instead of stressing out for nothing, more than likely you're going to be okay with it. So next time you feel like you're going to stress, just check in on yourself, right? Usually you feel hotter, your heart starts racing a bit more, feels like your blood pressure is going up, you kind of clench your teeth, right? Eyes, pupil dilate, all this type of stuff. So when you start to feel yourself doing this, just try those techniques. Just go, you know what, I'm just going to pause for a second. Let me just think about this. Let me just make sure that this is kind of something that I'm not over freaking out about. So see how you go. Hopefully that works. I'm Nick Sala. Hope you enjoyed the show. Catch you on the next one.